The gentleman from North Carolina is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Secretary, for coming. I want to just follow up on one of my colleagues' comments earlier, Dr. Winstrup. I personally also, as a physician, am dismayed. We sent y'all a bipartisan, bicameral bill signed by a president for the No Surprises Act, and you absolutely took it to the left and have hurt, I believe, Americans. And you talk about all the disputes that occurred, absolutely, because it was not interpreted as it was sent over. I'll just leave that as a comment. The one thing that you and I definitely will agree on is antimicrobial resistance. I've lost patients. I've seen, I think, records now about 35,000 a year that die because we don't have drugs to treat them. So I know you probably know some of this, but just for the edification of some of the other members, from the time it starts, from a drug starts from the beginning to a patented molecule, sometimes takes 10, 15, even longer, that many years. And it costs billions of dollars of investment. And for every one molecule that passes through, there are probably about 100 and 150 that don't make it. From the time they patent a molecule, it gets a 14-year clock. However, now that 14-year clock has changed to 9 years. And as a direct result of that, so many pharmaceutical companies, because they cannot, and I'm not advocating for pharmaceutical companies, I'm advocating for patients. So many companies, pharmaceutical companies, have, because of that restriction of their ability to earn and recoup their losses, are stopping production. And for the record, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to submit an article as well as source of list of 42 companies that mention the IRA this year in delayed launches of their medications, impacts to long-term planning for new cures, and impacts to oncology R&D. And included in it, may I just submit these for the record, sir?
Without objection, so ordered.
And so we go back to the antimicrobial resistance. We really haven't had a new generation come along. We've had it in the quinolones, and now there's some fifth-generation cephalosporins that are helping. How can the IRA, and then with the fact that the Biden wants to have the moonshot program and develop these new cancer cures, how can that fit with the fact now that we are killing American R&D in trying to develop new cures because we're cutting their ability to actually fund for them?
Congressman, here's my difficulty in following the logic of your question. If a company is going to...
I think I was pretty clear. It costs money to develop drugs. We're cutting them out from earning that money so they won't develop the drugs.
And if they're putting that product out, that drug out there at a competitive price, what would be the problem? It's when you put a drug out there for an uncompetitive price where you essentially charge Americans 2 to 3 times more than what you charge others around the world. That's what the Inflation Reduction Act attacks, is that lets us negotiate to get the best price.
Well, tell that to the 42 companies now.
I would say that to the 42 companies.
That have stopped production of cures and treatments, which include antibiotics.
Competition should not stop anyone from trying to develop a drug.
But I'm not being pleading for pharmaceutical profits. Please don't take me it that way. But I'm saying it costs billions of dollars to do this, and now we have 42 companies that say they're not going to do it because of the IRA.
And how those 42 companies can make a decision on a law that just took effect and that won't be negotiating prices for several years to come is beyond me. But what I can tell you is
that's planning in the corporate America. That's planning. You have to plan 20 years for these drugs. That's how long it takes for these drugs to come out.
And you're entitled to plan to make a profit. You're just not entitled to gouge Americans for the price.
I agree 100%. I agree 100%.
So why would those companies not want to create a drug in America, the richest country in the world, so they could sell it and make a profit, not gouge, but make a profit?
Because their timeline to earn that profit has been cut by 30%. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to yield back.